Okay, so hello everyone, this is me Abhijushi and today I'm all here to get you through the concept of multi-threading. So today I'm going to be telling you how you can avoid the situation of a deadlock, or I will show you, I will demonstrate you how a deadlock is attained in a Java program and the concept of multi-threading. So what does multi-threading means? Like for example, if you're executing a Java program, it simply has a single line of execution, which is the main you can say the main line of execution or the main thread which is getting executed all over the time. So let me get you through this in a very easy peasy way. So let me get you back. This is out. Okay, this is a pro. Now let's say I want to get the name of my current thread. So I'm gonna use directly that thread dot current thread dot get name. So executing this, I would get the name of the main thread. As you can see that there is only main thread which is by default created in Java. So in order to attain the multi-threading, which simply means we need to execute a program in multiple lines of execution. So we're using Java for that. So let's get back and let me throw you the example of deadlock in order to understand this better. So what does deadlock mean? For example, I'm playing a game, I'm having a football, there is one striker against me, and I want to pass the ball, but he is acquired by another defender. So I would not pass the ball to him because I know that he might lose the ball because he's already getting covered by someone. So this is what deadlock means. For example, in a school library, for example, you can say there are two students and there are three books available for them. Say for example, student 1 acquires the book 1 and take it. Student 2 acquires the book 3 and take it. Student 1 acquires the book 2 and take it. And the student 2 wants to acquire the book number 2, but as student 1 has already acquired the book number 2, he can't do so. Now, for example, now student number 1 wants to acquire the book number 3, but the book number 3 is already acquired by the student number 2. But the student number 2 is saying that if you want book number 3, give me book number 2. And the student number 1 is saying if you want book number 2, give me book number 3. So this is called the situation of a deadlock. So this is how deadlock is caused in Java. So I might get you through in an easy peasy way in the execution program in Java. So let's put a class as library. Class library. I'm using multi-threading by the method of runnable interface. So let me tell you quick in this. So there are two methods of attaining multi-threading in Java. There are two ways. Like for example, the first method is to directly extend the thread class into a program and use it consecutively. But as a good developer or a good coding practice, you should always implement multi-threading by the concept of runnable interface. Why so? Because we know that there is not a concept of multi-inheritance in Java. For example, you cannot extend more than one class in a Java program. So in order to get the vitality, or you can say scope of extending a class later on in a program, we might always use the runnable interface method to get into the multi-threading concept. Because as a good developer, you always need to have a scope of getting more improvements in your code. So I'm using runnable interface. So as you can see that there I'm getting an error because I'm using runnable interface, and in runnable interface there is a public extract method which is a final method, and it's run method. So I need to give a declaration over here because in the runnable interface it's only a method signature in it. What I'm going to do is give a implementation to it, public void run. So as you can see, the error disappears. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create three books, or we can say three resources. And what I'm going to do is I'm creating these books as string. So why I've used this method of getting string, because I'm trying to create a book into the string constant pool. As you know that SCP doesn't allow duplicates. So as a good coding practice, always try to use string to get more and more objects and to understand things better. So let, for example, there is a first book which is of Java. I'm using the another resource as a new string which is of SQL, and I'm using another string as DBMS, which is of database management, DBMS. So what I'm going to do is, say for example, I'm using the two students and try to access the library. So as a student, we can also say them threads. Two threads are trying to acquire three resources. So they might cause a deadlock. So let's get the name of currently executing thread, or you can say the student which is trying to access or trying to get the books from the library. So I'm going to name string name equals to thread dot current thread dot get name. So from here I get the name. So what I'm going to do is use a simple conditional statements, or you can say if else statements. So what I'm going to do is if name dot equals student 1. Say for example the name of the thread is student 1. So if this happens, I need to do things. So firstly let me put the thread into sleep so that you can understand the concept better. So 3000 milliseconds. So as you can see, I'm getting an error. So why I'm getting this error? Because it's interrupting exception which is coming all over here. So in order to get rid out of this error, I need to use the try catch block to handle this exception. So what I'm going to do is to put this inside this. Yeah. So I have put the thread into sleep. Now what I'm going to do is using the synchronized keyword in order to attain multi-threading. Synchronize resourcing 1. Student 1 required book source 1. Now what you have to do is to put this again to sleep in order to understand better for 3000 milliseconds. So now what we're going to do is we're going to introduce nested synchronized methods inside the resource. So why we do so? To acquire locks in 2 statements. Big is we are using sleep statement. So if we are using sleep statement, so the thread scheduler which is inside the Java virtual machine puts the thread, or you can say the resource, out of the running state and put it into the block state. Okay. So at this point of time, it has acquired the lock on the resource number 1, which means resource number 1 cannot be used until and unless the first thread execution is completed. So in order to attain the lock at resource 1 and try to acquire the lock at resource 2 consecutively, we need to use nested synchronized. So that is the reason why we are using nested synchronized over here. So I'm going to acquire the lock on the resource number 2. This out student 1 acquire the book number 2, which is of SQL. Now try to sleep the thread for 3000 milliseconds. Now using the nested synchronized again for the resource number 3. This out. What had happened? Student 1 acquire the book. Okay, as you can see, now I'm putting the thread into sleep. 3000. Now the work is done for this. Now I'm going to handle the catch statement all over here. Catch to handle the exception E. Now this out, exception occurred. So what you can do rather than putting the try catch block is to throw this exception, but as a good coding practice, try to solve the exception at the level itself, because if you're trying to throw the exception all over to the upper, or you can say the super class, you are redirecting your methods to the upper class. You should use the throws exception. If you are having same kind of exception in multiple classes, then you can put all over, throw it into the main class and handle it all over there. So yeah, exception occurred. I know that there is no exception all over here, but as a good coding practice, you need to do this. So I am done with this block, the if block. Now I'm going to do the same for the else block. So what I'm going to do is copy the code of here. Now what I'm going to do is to acquire the resources in the reverse manner. Why so? Because I want to cause the deadlock. And 1. Okay. Source number 1. So this caused the issue of deadlock. Okay, what's the error over here? Can't get it. This is ending this, and why so? Invalid header name. I can get what kind of error is coming out of here. Else block, thread is sleep, synchronized. Okay, okay. This has put into this. This is putting my else block is okay. Synchronizing resource number 3 and this and this. Okay. There is no try block. Now I've handled all the exceptions all over here. So what I'm going to do is now write the main class, which is th6. So as you can see how I debug the code right now. So this is a good coding practice to try to handle your exceptions on your own. This would get you to a better understanding methods, and it might get you to a good point in life too. So let's get back into our main class, which is this. Now I'm going to create the object of library equals new library. Yeah. Okay. And now I'm creating two threads because, as you know, I'm implementing multi-threading by the runnable interface, so I need to create thread objects. New thread. Now I'm going to pass this lib into this thread 2. t2 equals new thread. I'm going to put lib, my object of the library class. Oh, there is a spell mistake. Now what I'm going to do is change the name of my thread. What I'm going to do is t1 dot set name student1, t2 dot set name student2. So now I'm going to implement the start method all over here. So as you know, why I'm not using the run method all over here, you need to be very clear about it. So why I'm not using I'm using start method instead of run method is that because if we want to attain multi-threading in Java, we always used to use start method, because if we are using run method directly, it means we are only using a single line of execution, and it simply means you are not attaining multi-threading at all. So always, if you are attaining the concept of multi-threading, use the start method instead of run method. So here you can see all the code is done. Now what I'm going to do is explain you and go through and debug the code line by line. Okay, so this is where I have created the library class and implemented the runnable interface in it. And after that, I've created a run method, which is a public extract method inside the runnable interface. So it's necessary to give an implementation of it here. So here I've created three resources, which is Java, SQL, DBMS, which are the three books I've created. After that, I've created the thread name, which will be passed by the thread scheduler into it. As you can see here, I'm calling T1. So the thread name of T1 is student1. So it's getting into the name. So here the if condition is checking if the name is equal to student1. As you can see, I've changed the name of thread as student1, so it matches. So this block of code will execute. So startingly I have used the thread.sleep method, which puts the thread into sleep at 3000 milliseconds, which means that it is putting the thread scheduler to put this thread outside of the runnable part and put it into the block state. After that, I have used the synchronize resource 1 keyword, which is acquiring a lock into the book number 1 by the student number 1. After that, I have put 3000 sleep again in order to get out of the block state, and for that particular chance, the second one, which is you can see the student number 2, will try to acquire the lock in the resource number 3, which is here executed. So after that, getting into the 1 2 3 3 2 1, it gets stuck at the book number 2, which might cause the deadlock. So let's execute this code in order to understand this better. So you can see the code has started executing. You can see student 1 acquired Java, student 2 acquired DBMS, student 1 acquired SQL, student 2 acquired the SQL. So this is the case where the deadlock has acquired and the code terminated abnormally. So this is the concept of multi-threading at all. I hope you understand it better. So yeah, bye.